เปิดไฟหน่อยพี่มันมืดไปเหรอเอ้ยกูไปสเตย์มาเดี๋ยวมาสวัสดีครับพี่ไอโอ้ยโยสวัสดีครับคุณการสวัสดีคุณแอโทเนียแล้วผมเพิ่งแพ้วาโลมาอันนี้เปิดยังเปิดแล้วมันเปิดตั้งแต่แรกแล้วเว้ยเนี่ยต้องเร่งแสงอะไรยังไงมันเล่นได้แค่เนี้ยมามืดมามืดมาสว่างมาลังอ่านมาในบอกเลยว่าวันนี้รอคอยมานานมากรอคอยมานานเลยความรู้สึกแบบนี้นี่ไม่เคยเบื่อเลยเดี๋ยวกันขอเปิดจุ่มเอาทวิตดรอปก่อนดิสลันพบกันแกสซี่เป็นรูทูจังโลนแค่นี้ก็น่าจะพอเดี๋ยวมาจุ่มใหม่ไปหาอ่านมังงะก่อนโอเคเราจะทำอะไรดีระหว่าง46 นาทีนี้ ขอติวก่อนก็แล้วกันเพราะว่ามันมีเรื่องต้องติวสวัสดีคุณลิกครับ
Lower tier maps, they sell for chance orbs. As you go up the tiers, connected map. However, during a run like this is how I rush the first 2 void stones in 5 hours or less on a fresh start character. Step 1, 27 Atlas points to rush Unwavering Vision, pathing through these middle Kirac and middle higher map drop nodes. Step 2, use those 20 Atlas points from Unwavering Vision on even more Kirac chance, higher map drop chance, and a connected map drop chance. Step 3, just blast maps. Use Kirac missions when you can, use Egan at T14 if necessary, and use any extra Atlas points on the way for even more connected map drops. With the summary out of the way, let's go over these steps again, but with a bit more depth, and then discuss why it works, requirements, and gearing. Step 1 is to run 27 or so white maps for completion. You want to make these maps blue, and in most of these maps your goal is to rush the boss, killing some monsters on the way. That said, there are 2 reasons to clear more monsters in this section. First, you need XP. If you skip monsters altogether, or only farm what's on the way, you can actually get underleveled, and roll into a negative XP snowball when you start progressing to higher tier yellows and reds. Secondly, you want to keep track of the connected map drop. So say I've defeated the map boss, but I haven't dropped a connected map yet, that I might consider clearing more of that map, especially so if I need XP or the layout is good. That said, map drops and connected map drops are not guaranteed. We are playing with probability and chance here. Now, if you're unsure what the connected map drops are, you can press G to open up the atlas and right click on a map in your inventory to zoom into that map, or you can hover over each connected map. However, during a run like this, I'm not doing that, and I'm mostly going off of feel, because if I do enough of these runs, I'll eventually have all of the connections memorized. Anyways, onwards to step 2. I'm going to start with where we are and where we are going before explaining some of the intricacies of the different tools we use. So during this section, we're probably in lower tier yellow maps, say tier 6, and the main goal is to progress to tier 10 maps as fast as possible. While progressing up the tiers in a tier 8 map, you'll find the envoy, who will drop either an Eater or Exarch compass, allowing you to begin their quest chain. The quest chain is simple. After finding a compass to augment your map device, you complete a T9 map with Eater or Exarch influence, then a T10, then a T11, where you'll find an invitation to a mini boss fight. Defeat the mini boss, then complete a T12, 13, 14, 15, and finally a 16 to fight the pinnacle boss. The dream is you just complete one tier after another. However, in reality, that is very unlikely. Now let's talk about Kirak because he has two important functions. First, he can provide a free map based on the highest map you've ran, and secondly, he can sell a random assortment of maps. The price of the maps Kirak sells are based on the map tier and rarity. Generally, for lower tier maps, they sell for chance orbs. As you go up the tiers, yellow maps sell for alchemies or alchemies and chance, and as you go even higher, red maps often sell for chaos orbs. To acquire currency to purchase these maps, you want to convert alterations to jewelers to fusings to chance orbs, and orbs of regret to alchemies. All that said, generally what happens is you'll purchase maps once or twice in the white map section, once or twice in the yellow map section, and when you're pushing red maps, you'll mostly be relying on Kirak missions. With all that in mind, returning to the Atlas tree, with the 27 Atlas points we acquired in step 1, we allocate Unwavering Vision, giving us 20 additional points that we spend on Kirak chance, higher map drop chance, and connected map drop chance. With all of these nodes, this basically means when we run a map, the odds are in our favor, that either we'll get a higher tier map that we haven't run yet, and if we don't, then we have a Kirak mission to fall back on. Which brings us to step 3, the red map wall. The red map wall is basically that scaling from T11s to T16s quickly is difficult. There are two strategies to counter this. The first is using scarabs to add monsters to our maps. However, since we have Unwavering Vision, we can't use scarabs. But what we can use is Kirak missions. So in the previous step, we rush to tier 10s as fast as possible to have a large base of tier 10s, which we either run or Voldorb, so we can also have a large base of tier 11s. Afterwards, the next step is simple. Run as many tier 11s as possible, ideally to drop T12s and so on, but more realistically for Kirak missions, which will run in hopes of a higher tier map drop. You may go up and down the tiers in this section, which is perfectly normal. The next breakpoint is T14 maps, where Ekin will spawn. Simply talk to him to create a mini quest chain with free originator maps. It's worth noting, you may want to roll the maps with alterations, because originator maps have T17 modifiers, which can be very difficult to run at this point. So with Kirak missions, originator maps, and some map RNG, simply blast maps, get to T16s,
คุณรู้ป่ะว่าที่ผมกำลังดูอยู่แม่งคือขั้นตอนในการแอดลาสแบบว่าโปรเกรสคือผมแม่งแบบยากมากเว้ยผมเห็นคนสปีดรัน5 ชั่วโมงบ้าง6 ชั่วโมงบ้าง8 ชั่วโมงบ้างผมเล่นไป8 ชั่วโมงครึ่งผมเล่นไป7 ชั่วโมงครึ่งผมยังได้กลางทางแค่กลางทางอยู่เลยผมโคตรไม่เข้าใจเลย
Defeat the map boss, drop an invitation, defeat the pinnacle boss, and repeat for the other one. Now, in addition to the strategy, there are some requirements that you'll want to plan for, which will make progression easier. First, aim for approximately 1 million Guardian/Pinnacle boss DPS at around level 80 with very basic gear. You can progress to T16s with less DPS, but it will be much easier and faster if you meet that benchmark. If you're having trouble reaching that benchmark, or you just want an easier time, then just level higher.
ลองนึกดูดิลีกเปิด
level 90, level your
ลีกเปิดมาแบบ5 ชั่วโมงอย่างเงี้ยมีคนฆ่าบอสไอ้เขียวไอ้แดงละกูกูเพิ่งจบแอดลาสกูเพิ่งจบแอคทีฟตอน4 ชั่วโมงครึ่งอะแล้วเข้าแอดลาสได้ประมาณชั่วโมงกว่า
gems to level 19. That said, good passage tree and getting progression basically boils down to good decision making. This means spending time in the passage tree, importing your character profile from test runs, and optimizing your character. Alternatively, you can also look up a League Start leveling guide, where ideally the creator showcases some form of smooth progression. One last quick point on gearing. There are 3 things to keep in mind, all involving gambling. First, after completing the campaign, gamble for basic life and
ๆ
resist
แบบไป
fear.
ของฟับผมเล่นธนูอ่ะผมเล่นธนูผมคิดว่าผมเล่นธนูแต่ถ้าธนูดูไม่เวิร์กก็จะตามฟับถ้าตามฟับก็อาจจะมีไกด์ไหมคิดว่าอาจจะมีไกด์ตามมาถ้าตามฟับเนิร์ฟธนูลีกที่แล้วก็ไม่ได้เป็นสตาร์เตอร์นะธนูลีกนี้ควรจะบัฟหรือเปล่า เล่นได้เป็นเลยมีแค่พื้นฐาน PoE 2ไม่รู้จะรอดไหมลีกแรกคุณไม่สามารถแบบว่าคาดหวังให้ตัวเองระเบิดภูเขาเผากระท่อมได้แต่ถ้าคุณไม่ลองนี่คุณก็ไม่รู้เหมือนกันนะผมแนะนำให้คุณลองเล่นดูครับสนุกยิ่งถ้าคุณชอบเป็นสายฟาร์มเอ็นเกมชอบ PoE 2ชอบฟาร์มเอ็นเกมคุณจะชอบของ PoE 1มากกว่าคุณจะรักในเอ็นเกมของ PoE 1ครับเล่นรอดไม่รอดมันมีไกด์ให้กันแล้วกันมัน PoE 2มีไกด์มีแนวทางยังไง PoE 1ก็มีแบบนั้นมีให้เยอะกว่านั้นอีกถ้าคุณเล่นไปหาข้อมูลไปยังไงคุณก็เล่นรอดครับเดี๋ยวมันมีแนวทางให้คุณเชื่อผมดิ Monkey likes bananas ลิงชอบกล้วยเหรอ
If done well, you won't need to change these items for the rest of the run. Next,
มือใหม่
if
ควร
you're
ไป
planning
ฟาร์ม
on
คอนเทนต์อะไรดีคอนเทนต์ที่ชอบฟาร์มอะไรก็ได้คอนเทนต์ที่ชอบถ้าเลือกไม่ถูกก็ตามสตรีมเมอร์ถ้าตามผมเล่นเร็วผมไม่แนะนำให้ตามผมนะถ้าไม่ได้เล่นเร็วหรือคิดว่าวิธีที่ผมฟาร์มมันเพราะมันเน่าเร็วมันฟาร์มได้แบบวัน2 วัน3 วันพอของมันเริ่มเฟ้อของคอนเทนต์นั้นมันเริ่มเฟ้อปุ๊บมันเริ่มฟาร์มไม่ได้ละแต่ผมเล่นเร็วไงผมเล่นได้ผมไม่แนะนำให้ตาม strategy การฟาร์มของผมนะผมแนะนำให้ไปตามของคนอื่นประเด็นคือไม่รู้เลยว่ามันมีคอนเทนต์อะไรบ้างน่ะคุณไม่จำเป็นต้องฟาร์มแหละคือคุณจะไม่ได้ฟาร์มหลายคอนเทนต์พร้อมๆกันครับถึงมันจะมีสักประมาณ20 30 40 100คอนเทนต์คุณได้ฟาร์มทีละคอนเทนต์2คอนเทนต์ครับเพราะฉะนั้นไม่ต้องห่วงผมจะบอกให้ว่า beginner friendly อ่ะช่อง beginner friendly คือ ginger hair ครับ ginger hair เพื่อนรักเพื่อนร่วมทางของคุณพี่เขาไม่เคยไปไหนพี่เขาผมจะบอกว่าถ้าเป็นผู้เล่นใหม่จริงๆนะไปตามคุณบอส ginger hair ครับคุณบอส ginger hair คือ beginner friendly มากแล้วก็บิลที่แกเล่นในทุกๆลีกมันเป็นบิลที่เล่นง่ายตามง่ายเข้าใจง่ายเล่นง่ายในที่นี้คือคุณสมบัติของบิลมันไม่ได้เล่นยากอ่ะมันอาจจะมีความถือความอะไรอยู่ในตัวมันทำแบบว่าเราอาจจะไม่ต้องโยกเอวพริ้วมากเราก็เล่นรอดอะไรอย่างงี้เราจะรู้ได้ไงว่าบิลที่ผมเลือกจะเล่นคอนเทนต์อะไรได้บ้างอืมโอ้ก็คุณจะรู้ได้ยังไงคุณก็ต้องลองเล่นก่อนวะอันนี้มันคือเรื่องของประสบการณ์เคยเล่นแต่ PoE 2เห็นเขาบอกว่า1ยากกว่าเยอะฮึฮึฮึฮึฮึ1มันเยอะกว่าไม่ได้หมายความว่ายากกว่าเว้ยคุณผมเล่นมานะผมรู้สึกว่า PoE 2เล่นยากกว่ามันเล่นยากแล้วก็ทรหดกว่าแต่ PoE 1คือง่ายมจกกรีดเลือดออกมาเป็น PoE 1ถูกต้องผมมัน PoE แฟนบอยอยู่แล้ว
a build where your damage scales off of your weapon, then generally you want to gamble for an upgrade around the time you enter maps, and a second time approximately around T11 maps. Lastly, near the end of the run, you'll have a lot of gold, which you'll want to use on your body armor to gamble for a 5-link. It's not guaranteed, but if you're lucky, it will significantly
ผมจะบอกให้นะคนที่จะมาลองเล่น PoE 1อ่ะตราบใดที่คุณคอยหาข้อมูลอยู่เรื่อยๆอ่ะนะหาข้อมูลติดตามข้อมูลไม่ว่าคุณจะตามใครเป็นแนวทางตราบใดที่คุณติดตามเขาอยู่เรื่อยๆครับคุณเล่นรอดแน่ๆคุณจะได้เห็นแนวทางแล้วแล้วถ้าคุณมีพื้นฐานมาจาก PoE 2อย่างเงี้ยผมเชื่อว่าคุณจะต้องมีเซนส์ในเรื่องของการถามคำถาม คุณจะสงสัยในส่วนที่แม่งมีให้สงสัยใน PoE 1อ่ะแบบว่า PoE 1 PoE 2มันน่าสงสัยเหมือนกันอะไรเงี้ยไม่ยาก
improve your damage in most builds. Alright, you're now at 2
ผมบอกเลยว่าข้อเสียอย่างเดียวของ PoE 1นะ สิ่งเดียวที่ PoE 1แม่งสู้ PoE 2ไม่ได้คือ PoE 1ไม่มี WASD.
Stone rushing expert, and after watching this video, you're going to log in and defeat Eater Exarch in 5 hours or less. Surely, right? Anyways, let me know if this video was helpful, and if there's anything else you would like to know about League Start, campaign speedrunning, or Atlas progression. Thanks for watching, and as always, have a great day, Exiles. Bye.
ดูดิไอ้นี่มันอัดคลิปอยู่เนี่ย4 ชั่วโมง56 นาทีมันมาถึงไอ้แดงแล้ว
Actually, I just stopped it, right?
โอ้โหแล้วดาเมจลดอย่างนี้คือไม่แย่นะผมบอกเลยลดอย่างนี้คือไม่แย่เลยครับ
You just have to move. If I have Uber Lab, I think I can tank it.
ลดอย่างนี้คือถือว่าดีมากในสำหรับยุปลาขวดนะมันรีเซิร์ฟไปยังวะถ้ารีเซิร์ฟแล้วผมจะได้เล่นโซโล่เซลฟ้าของผมต่ออัปเดต 1.8 กิกะไบต์ Are you kidding me right now หวังว่าเน็ตจะไม่หลุดนะรอที่อะไรมันดึงเน็ตแหละโอเคงั้นผมค่อยอัปเดตเกมกันละกันถ้าอย่างนั้นผมเล่นเกมอื่นรอแล้วกันนะอัปเดตทั้ง2 เกมเลยมันเล่นยังไงให้ได้4 ชั่วโมง 56วะเชื่อแทนที่จะเล่นในเกมก็นะผมไม่เล่นละผมสงสัยจริงๆแล้วเนี่ยขออนุญาตเลย
Swift and silent, you stole the bounty of others.
อันนี้คลิปเมื่อปีที่แล้ว
That plunders up. Finish this. You are free.
โยคุณลิกโยยิตเตอร์ออฟเวิลด์6 ชั่วโมง 53โอเคอันนี้คือเมคเซนส์มากผมช้ากว่าเขาประมาณชั่วโมงกว่าดาเมจแม่งแรงจัด
That calling strike is dead.
แต่คลิปมันเก่ามากเลยนะ คิดที่แม่งมานั่งสปีดรันก็มีอยู่แค่นั้นเฮ้ยมันต้องมีทวิตให้ดูเดย้อนลงย้อนหลังไม่มีหรือไงอ๋อนี่ไงมันเพิ่งเล่นไปเลยนี่หว่าแม่งสตรีมอยู่
DPS of this character.
สตรีมอยู่7 ชั่วโมงแล้วคือแม่งเป็น7 ชั่วโมงที่แบบทำเสร็จแล้ว
Interesting. New speedrun strats, guys. New speedrun strats. All right, let's go back. That is amazing.
By the ire of innocence, I denounce you.
อุ้ยดูดิใช้เวลาเท่าไหร่วะเนี่ย เข้าแอดลาสตอนไหนอะเรสฮะมันทำนู่นทำนี่เสร็จตอน2 ชั่วโมงครึ่งอะ
Garbage in here. All garbage. All garbage.
มันเล่นโคตรเร็วอะไม่มีทางที่ผมจะทำได้แบบเนี้ย
Chance to do that.
เข้าแอดลาสตอนไหนตอน2 ชั่วโมง 45แล้วผ่านไปอีก2 ชั่วโมงมันใช้เวลาทั้งหมด2 ชั่วโมงในการโปรเกรสแอดลาสจาก0ไปจนถึงพินาเคิล2 ตัวปล่อยมันจุ่มละโยโยโยโยมันใช้เวลาเท่าไหร่มันใช้เวลา2 ชั่วโมงเองนะเว้ยถามจริงผมเล่น7 ชั่วโมงยังไม่จบเลยโปรเกรสยังไงวะเล่นตามไม่ไหวอ่ะ ใช่แล้วแหละเฮ้ยคุณลิกผมฝากฝากขอโทษคุณโจหน่อยเพราะว่าผมไม่ได้ต่อแชทคุณโจอีกแล้วนะ ฝากบอกคุณโจว่าเดี๋ยวผมไปเสียสิ่งนั้นให้วิปาขวดมันเก่งขนาดนั้นเลยดิมันเร็วมันเก่งตามขวดเลือดเว้ยขวดเลือดใช้ขวดเลือดมีเติมเลือดเยอะเท่าไหร่มันก็ยิ่งแรงเท่านั้นอะดูดิไอ้เหี้ยดาเมจบอสอย่างนี้มันไม่ธรรมดานะเว้ยแรงมากนะสำหรับการโหคอนคอกอะแล้วแม่งคัลลิ่งสไตล์เป็นกิโลเลยฮัลโหลปกติคัลลิ่งสไตล์มัน10%แต่เล่นเป็นอันนี้แล้วมันเล่นเป็นคลาสนี้แล้วมันเป็น20อะ เริ่มด้วยขวดกับพี่เพราะว่ามันเร็วเว้ยเดี๋ยวผมไปเล่นขวดบ้างเนี่ยแต่ใจมันรักธนูนะเว้ยไม่เคยนอกใจธนูเลยแม้แต่นิดเดียวอ่ะผมแม่งธนูเลิฟเวอร์มากแต่ลีกที่แล้วไม่เล่นเพราะว่าเป็นฟอบกันแฟนบอยอ๋อลีกนี้แหละยังไม่ได้ปิดนี่หว่าเล่นโวลคานิกฟิชเชอร์เพราะว่าอย่างนั้นแหละ
Wait, is this not a tier 12 map, guys? Did I not click the thing? What's on this map? Oh, Lamau. Lamau!
ขวดก็น่าจะมีลิมิตไม่เท่าธนูใช่ไม่ธนูเก่งกว่าอยู่แล้วในบ้านในบ้าน ในบ้านปลายชีวิตอะธนูเก่งกว่าอยู่แล้วแต่คือเล่นขวดอะจะโยกไปธนูมันไม่ยากนะเว้ยในบ้านเย่
Nice.
nice เจอแพ้นรกเป็นกูก็ตายเพื่อน
Operation Survive. Dude, these goatmen are making it very hard to survive. Like, actually. How we did it.
You've given
I really have every node. I might.
ใกล้ยังอีก21 นาทีครึ่งอ๋อตัวแรกมันเสร็จในราวๆ5 ชั่วโมงเลยแหละเนี่ยกูกอมาเท่าไหร่4 ชั่วโมง 57ก็คือเลือดบอสจะเหลือครึ่งหนึ่งอยู่ละนี่คอนคอกนะครับ Explosive คอนคอกก็คือผมเชื่อว่าไอหมอเนี่ยจะเล่นธนูให้ได้เร็วเท่านี้ก็ได้เหมือนกันเว้ยผมเชื่อว่าธนูทำได้แต่แค่ต้องซ้อมเยอะมากๆอ่ะผมรู้แล้วว่าทำไมผมถึงช้าเมื่อกี้ตอนผมเล่นผมไม่ได้นี่ผมไม่ได้เอาพวกเคอร์เรนซีไปคอนเวิร์ตให้เป็นออ c แชนมาซื้อแมปก็ไม่แปลกใจหรอกถ้ามันจะช้ามือชะตากรรมเป็นยังไงอ้าวคุณไม่ได้ไปอ่านเหรอคุณไม่ได้ตามข่าวเหรอมือไม่มือไม่ได้ไปต่อนะอุ้ยดูพวกลูกชิ้นเนื้อนั่นสิเล่นบิวสายฟ้าเล่นอะไรเอามันก็เล่นได้มันก็แค่จะไม่เก่งเวอร์แค่นั้นแหละก็แค่พึ่งของมากขึ้นอ่ะมันก็ยังเล่นได้อยู่แต่เดี๋ยวรอดูมันอาจจะเปลี่ยนเมตาก็ได้ถ้ายังเป็นเมตาเทียร์17กับมอดแมปโง่ๆอย่างนั้นอยู่ก็ทิกเตอร์ตลอดไปอ่ะกูพูดแค่เนี้ยโอ้หลบลูกชิ้นเนื้อตั้งนานเพื่อมาโดนบอสพุ่งวันฮิตใส่ มารอดรอปเย้ผมเปิดไว้หลายช่องเลยเห็นปะคุณลองนึกดูดิแต่ก่อนผมวิ่งแอค1 ถึง 10อะผมจบใน5 ชั่วโมงนะเว้ยในขณะที่ผมเพิ่งจบแอค10อะคนคนนี้ฆ่าบอสพินาเคิล2 ตัวไปแล้วอะสมัยอาร์เมอร์สแต็กกูอย่าหาทำก็นะ PoE 1ไม่จำเป็นต้องยึดติดกับสายฟ้าเนาะ PoE 2อาจจะใช่แหละแต่ PoE 1นี่ ไม่นะผมบอกเลยว่า อะไรที่ไหนเมื่อไหร่อย่างไรก็ได้อ่ะแล้วแพสซีฟแบบดูดิแพสซีฟดูแบบว่าโง่มากไอ้เชี่ยตัวละครผ่านแค่แลบ 3แล้วน่ะแลบ เบอร์ลิน 4ยังไม่ได้ทำเอาเถอะผมไม่ได้จะสปีดรันแข่งกับใครอยู่แล้วสุดท้ายผมคิดว่ามันคือการเร่งทำเควสเว้ยเขาไม่ได้ทำแต้มแพสซีฟเห็นปะแต้มแพสซีฟ39/115ไม่มีทางอ่ะเพราะผมทำแต้มแพสซีฟไปด้วยใช้สกิลอะไรเขาใช้ Explosive Concoct นี่สมองไหล6-7 ชั่วโมงจบแอคก็ว้าวแล้วนะแต่แบบนี้ยอมแพ้ฝึกตามสักพักไม่อันเนี้ยคุณลิกต้องเข้าใจก่อนว่าแม่งคือสปีดรันเพื่อการแบบว่าทำวอยสโตนเว้ยถ้าถามผมนะมันไอ้เหี้ยเราไม่ได้มาเล่นเพื่อสปีดรันเปล่าวะเรามาเล่นเพื่อว่าเราจะฟาร์มอะในเมื่อเราจะฟาร์มองค์ประกอบมันก็ต้องมากกว่านั้นมากกว่าวอยสโตน2 ลูกวอยสโตน2 ลูกมันจะได้ที่หลังก็ได้มั้งในมุมมองผมอะนะมันไม่จำเป็นต้องรีบอะผมว่าแอลลาแพสซีฟสำคัญกว่านี่นี่นี่แป๊บนึงคุยกับลูกคอก่อนนี่ยังไม่นับรวมถึง ยังไม่นับรวมถึงเรื่องที่ว่าแบบว่าคอนเทนต์ที่ฟาร์มแม่งไม่จำเป็นต้องฟาร์มในแบบเทียร์15-16เลยนะผมจะฟาร์มสมมติผมจะฟาร์มรีเจียนอย่างเงี้ยรีเจียนฟาร์มในแบบเทียร์น้อยๆก็ได้ผมก็อาจจะกลับมาฟาร์มแค่แบบเทียร์7อะไรเงี้ยเก็ตปะอาจจะใส่วอสโตนแค่2 ลูกแล้วก็แบบว่าแบบเทียร์7อันไหนเลยเอาสวยๆอ่ะดูนก็ได้ดูนอาจจะเทียร์6เทียร์ 7เทียร์ 8อะไรทำนองเนี้ยเพราะว่ารีเจียนเทียร์ 16มันถึกเกินอะดิบิวเดย์วันฟาร์มไม่ไหวหรอกเก็บทุกอย่างให้ตัวเสร็จไม่ต้องย้อนกลับมาตามเก็บมันก็คงไม่เร็วได้กันใช่ผมผมคิดว่านะเก็บแอดลาสจนฟาร์มได้ภายใน12 ชั่วโมงคือโอเคละคนที่ผมดูเล่นสเลเยอร์สินะใช่ครับเล่นสเลเยอร์เอ็กโคซีคอนคอกจริงๆจะเล่นในเดดไอก็ได้นะเล่นในเดดไอก็ได้เหมือนกันผมคิดว่าแต่ไม่รู้ทำไมถึงไปเล่นในสเลเยอร์อาจจะมีคนขอมาแต่ในเดดไอก็เล่นได้ในเดดไอไม่แน่ใจเดดไออาจจะไม่ใช่เอ็กโคซีคอนคอกนะไม่รู้อ่ะหรือว่าเอ็กโคซีคอนคอกวะไม่รู้เหมือนกันว่าพอยซันคอนคอกโหดกว่าหรือเปล่าเพราะว่าเดดไอมันมีโหนดพอยซันให้ด้วยไงเอาละ 5 ชั่วโมงยังไม่ถึงแอค6 สมองโลกมากเลย ไม่รู้เล่นอะไรได้บ้างสงสัยตามตามเมตาถ้ามีเวลาก็ตามเมตาได้แหละ เฮ้ย10 นาทีเว้ย นี่คนรู้เรื่องสกิลคิวหนึ่งอันไหนเว้ย อันไหนตะแกรม เฮ้ย มันคือเรื่องของประสบการณ์เว้ย แหม คิดว่าเส้นทางที่คุณเลือกเดินนั้นจะเต็มไปด้วยดอกไม้หรือยังไง มันก็ต้องมีขวากหนามกันบ้าง จำไว้ว่าอย่าท้อเว้ย ไม่มีเวลาให้เสียใจ ส่งให้เต็มพื้นเลยซื้อ NT มา Yeah bro โอเค ก้าวตามพรีฟับ เฮ้ย มันมีหลายคนให้ตามนะเว้ย บิวอะเราอาจจะตามคนอื่นอะบิวอะอาจจะตามคนที่แบบว่าไม่ได้เมตามากไม่แพง ส่วน strategy ในการฟาร์มก็ตามใครก็แล้วแต่ตามฟับก็ได้ถ้าเกิดบิวแม่งฟาร์มได้เหมือนกันอะผมขออย่างเดียวเลยนะ อย่าเนิร์ฟระบบแกมเบิลระหว่างวิ่งแอคอย่าเนิร์ฟแบบอย่าเนิร์ฟเลย อย่าเนิร์ฟเดี๋ยวตามเพจแล้วกันบิวเดี๋ยวเรารอดูกัน เพราะว่าแผนผมต้องวางหลังจากได้เห็นคลิปกับแพทโน้ตก็คือคลิปเนี่ยไอตัวอย่างเนี่ยอีก10 นาที เดี๋ยวรอดูกันว่าเราจะได้เล่นกันแบบลำบากหรือว่าสบาย ใช่ ข้อดีของบิลเมตาคือมันซื้อง่ายขายคล่อง สวัสดีบอมเบย์ครับ พิมพ์ว่า log in dude log in dude หน้าไม้150 ดีวายซื้อมาสรุป ไปไม่สุดเอางบมาลงเดดไอ50 ดีวายเหลือสภาพ ผ เนิร์ฟไลฟ์เนิร์ฟเลือดเนิร์ฟเลือดบัฟอัลเทอร์เรชันชาร์ตเริ่มหมาเห่าพอมีสภาพไหมมันไม่ได้เล่นเหมือนเดิมอ่ะแล้วก็ถ้าจะเล่นมาโรเดอร์หมาเห่าก็ไม่ได้ดีสุดด้วยมาโรเดอร์ตอนนี้โวลเคนิกฟีเจอร์ดีสุดแอสซิสต์รีเวิร์กจริงหรือเท็จไม่ทราบครับไม่ได้ติดตามข่าววงในแต่ก็อาจจะมีรีเวิร์กแหละเพราะว่าโหนดพิษจากแอสซิสต์ไม่ค่อยมีคนใช้มั้งเราลองไปดูข้อมูลกันดีกว่าจริงๆแล้วมันก็มี Database ให้เราดูอยู่นะเกม PoE 1 แล้วก็ PoE Ninja นี่คือ Data ของพวกเรานะครับในลีก Mercenary คนเล่น Assassin น้อยสุดส่วนมากก็จะเป็นบิวระเบิดบอสตุ้มตามกันทั้งนั้นค่อนข้างมั่นใจว่าเนี่ยไอโหนดพิษพวกเนี้ยไม่ค่อยมีใครใช้ครับ Noxious Strike Toxic Delivery เนี่ยมันคือการเอาพิษมาสเกียร์กับครีครับแต่ถ้าถามผมนะผมคิดว่ามันเล่นได้แค่ช่วงต้นลีกแล้วมันไม่ใช่ลีกสตาร์เตอร์ที่เก่งที่สุดด้วยแต่ผมเคยเล่นนะผมเคยเล่นเป็นลีกสตาร์เตอร์อยู่ลีกหนึ่งบิวแอสซัสซินสายพิษอะเก่งดีทั้งเก่งทั้งดึกเลยเฮ้ยใช่เหรอโอ้เดี๋ยวนี้มันจะไม่จริงได้ยังไงคุณนี่มันออฟฟิเชียลShadow Blood Physical Damage Taken Recoil at Light Unaffected by Damaging Element เอาข้อมูลมาจากไหน Official โพสเองใน Reddit นี้เนี่ย GGG เนี่ยToxic Delivery Poison you inflict with Critical Strike deal 20% more damage อันนี้เราต้องเปิด POB มาเทียบนะสนใจ Elusive มากๆแป๊บหนึ่งยังอ่านไม่ถึงเดี๋ยวขออ่านแป๊บหนึ่งไหนจ๊ะ Toxic Delivery 25% เหลือ 20% more damage Increase เพิ่ม duration พิษอะนะ 100% อ๋อมาอยู่ตรงนี้แทนไอ้ recover life ก็มาอยู่ตรงนี้แทนอ้าว all damage from hit can poison holy shit poison สปาไงรออะไรอะถ้าดอดมันอันแคปอันนั้นน่าสนใจopportunistic อยู่ไหนเอ่ยอะไรคือ knife in the back that are on low life not on low life โหอันนี้คือแรงปะเนี่ย more damage blah 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 นี่อะไรอะ power charge assassin mark cost no mana mark enemy cannot evade attack holy แล้วเนี่ย base spell critical strike cannot spell is โอ้โหเฮีย Poison Spark ครีเหรอวะ เหี้ยไอ้เหี้ยมันถ้าเห็นแค่ตรงเนี้ยคือมันโกงเลยนะเว้ยคือยังไงขอคำแปลไม่ให้ สนใจ Elusive on Crit เพิ่มผล Elusive 100จาก50เหมือนเดิมแค่เพิ่มผลให้ Elusive เฉยๆคุณเพิ่มผลให้นิดนึงอะจบละ รอเล่นนี่มันมี Toxic Delivery เว้ยแล้วก็พิษที่ถูกแปะด้วย Critical Strike เนี่ยพิษที่แม่งแบบว่าฮิตที่แม่งแปะพิษแล้วเป็น Critical Strike อะจะทำความเสียหายเพิ่มอีก 20% แล้วก็เพิ่มระยะเวลาของพิษต่อพิษที่เราแปะไว้ในเร็วๆนี้ก็คือ4 วิที่ผ่านมา 5% duration 5% poison duration แล้วก็จะถูกแคปไว้ที่ 100%อุ้ยผมมองว่าแม่งโคตรเวอร์เลยนะเนี่ย poison spark พิษอะpoison spark ครีพูดผิดมันแลดูเวอร์จัง power charge แม่งมี power charge คือมาเล่น power charge ได้เว้ยเนี่ยแล้วมีแบบว่าเบรกสเปลคิดข้อสไตล์แชนเท่ากับอาวุธหลักด้วยอะ
Hi, I'm Jonathan Rogers from Grinding Gear Games, and welcome to GGG Live. Today we're going to show you an exclusive reveal of Path of Exile Keepers of the Flame, which is coming out 1 week from now on October the 31st. Twitch drops are enabled on today's live stream, so you'll be able to claim your Hive-born Crawler pet by following the instructions below. Without further ado, let's roll the trailer for Path of Exile Keepers of the Flame.
We, the Flame, serve the will of the Dreamer. His instructions whispered from beyond the wall of sleep.
เชียร์ลีกเอาโกไลออฟชายูล่าเหรอ
But now, the Hiveborn are here, on Rayclast, and they seek to poison our world.
เฮ้ยภาพมันดูเปลี่ยนไปเปล่าวะ
We must close their breaches, destroy their hives, slay their breach lords.
โอ้แสบตาพี่น้องเออ
And by his gifts, the Dreamer provides.
เชียร์แพต
They
ติมาอีก
brought
แล้ว
this war to our world, but we shall end it.
แพตติใหม่เว้ย
Whatever
แพต
it
ติใหม่เว้ย
takes.
แพตติใหม่เว้ย ครับใหม่ ระบบครับใหม่สกิลใหม่ เฮ้ยนั่นมันทวิตเตอร์ไม่ใช่เหรอน่ะสปอร์ตใหม่ บัตรไลน์คัสเชี่ยอูเบอร์บอสใหม่3 ตัวโอ้โหเย้ไปยมไปยม let's go dude
Now, as you can see, this expansion is a true sequel to the Breach League, first introduced to the game in 2016. We felt like it was time to progress the story of Breach, bringing with it a slew of new updates to the base game. In today's stream, we'll take you on a deep dive into Path of Exile Keepers of the Flame, beginning with the League mechanic, covering all the fearsome challenges it presents, and the new twisted ways you'll be able to empower your character. After that, we'll dive into the new ascendancy options possible with Bloodline classes. Then we'll cover the much anticipated and synchronous trade system coming to Path of Exile 1. Afterwards, we'll move into the new Uber Pinnacle bosses, how to access them, and some new drops worthy of the added difficulty. Finally, we'll cover some notable quality of life improvements before moving on to our supporter packs and challenge rewards. We'll then have a live Q&A session where Ziggy D will ask Path of Exile's game directors Mark and myself your questions from Twitch chat.
เอ้ยอะไรมาใน
And
บิน
after
ดี
the live stream, we'll drop the full patch notes at 11 a.m. New Zealand time or 3 p.m. Pacific. So let's get started. I'll hand things over to Mark to introduce the new league.
Hi, I'm Mark Roberts,
Oh, hi,
game
Mark.
director on Path of Exile. Breach is a
นี่
beloved
ทางเข้าแขน
league
เขาจะ
that
ก็
has
จะ
had
พิมพ์
an iconic
Hi Mark
history
Hi
in
Mark
PoE.
Hi Hi Mark
We intend to honor that
Hi,
legacy
hi.
with our first ever sequel league, Keepers of the Flame. This develops every aspect of Breach, adding new layers to discover, richer lore, scarier bosses, and entirely new mechanics. That said, this is still Breach, so you will still be opening breaches and slaying hordes of otherworldly monsters. The Breach Lords have found the means to stabilize the connection between their realm and Rayclast. Now, with their grip tightening, we learn their true goal in our world, conquest. The threat they pose has now escalated to home soil. On the coast in Act 1, you'll encounter Aelith, the founder of the Keepers of the Flame. This is a monastic order sworn to defend Rayclast from the Breach Lords. The exit to the Mudflats has been barricaded by Hiveborn, breach monsters that are working to claim every inch of Rayclast. Aelith can grant you a small spark of the power of the Flame, allowing you to blast away their barricade and move onwards.
แม่งเล่นยากแน่ๆ
Once you
Ooh.
enter the Mudflats, you'll find it infested with breach monsters. They appear to be constructing a kind of hive, creating strange shapes and structures that absolutely don't belong. Time to purge them with fire. Aelith needs you to protect her as she empowers the flame to do so. Hold off the assault long enough, and she'll be able to demolish the hive with cleansing flame. In other areas, the gap between worlds is strained. Here, you'll find a more familiar encounter with a new twist. A massive breach hand sunders the space between dimensions, and touching it will open an unstable breach, causing monsters to flood in. If you can slaughter them quickly enough, you can stabilize the breach. This brazen action can draw the attention of Vroon, Marshal of Zesht, who will do everything it can to stop you. Defeating this boss will permanently seal the breach, severing another connection between the Breach Lord's world and Rayclast.
Marshal of
These
Zesht
stabilized breaches are similar to what a breach once was, but with upgraded monsters, a success condition to shoot for, UI tracking to keep the player informed of their progress through the encounter, and satisfying feedback when you do manage to complete the encounter. We've taken
Oi,
all the
แหวน
lessons
ใหม่
we've
ตะกี้
learned
นี้เห็น
since the release of
เบสแหวน
Breach
ใหม่
9 years ago and improved upon it in every way we can. However, much of the joy of Breach came from its simplicity. While we want to modernize the mechanic, we don't want to undermine the core experience. You're still mostly just slaughtering hordes of enemies in a circle. Finally, in endgame areas you might run into breach constructions that have been left unopposed for too long and have grown into their full twisted glory. Breach hives.
อู้
Towering flesh-crafted cities in the sky. These are the visions of the Breach Lords made real in Rayclast.
เฮ้ยเชี่ยทางเข้าเหมือน
Teeming
เข้าไป
with breach
ตีบอสอาบิสเลยอะ
monsters.
โอเค
You
ไม่
must
ใช่ไม่ใช่ไม่ใช่
raid
ไม่ใช่
and destroy these cities with the help of Aelith and her flame.
บ้านเมืองทำลายแม่งเลย
In some of these hives, you may even encounter some of the Breach Lords themselves, who will not be happy you're intruding on their planned conquest. Now, let's talk loot. Of course, being an exile is hard work, and you're unlikely to help entirely out of the goodness of your heart. Fortunately, Aelith has power and rewards aplenty, born of the Breach Realm itself, to offer you for your assistance. Help her, and she'll bring you to the Monastery of the Keepers, the hallowed halls of her order. Here, you'll find the Genesis Tree, the growing heart of the Keeper's power. On interacting with it, you'll find that this tree has a tree. That's right, it couldn't be Path of Exile unless the tree also had a tree. More importantly, the Genesis Tree is an engine of unholy creation, and a profitable one. As you complete breach encounters and work more with Aelith, you'll be able to grow the Genesis Tree larger and larger,
What?
sprouting additional
ต้นไม้แขน
limbs. Each of these limbs, you'll notice, has their own inventories. These can be used for an unusual method of crafting new items. With this system, you'll be able to grow currency, uniques, equipment, and a new kind of otherworldly item,
ไอ้เหี้ยปลูก
grafts.
ปลูกไอเทมได้เหรอ
Grafts are breach hands grown directly from the Genesis Tree,
ในโคโปลิส
born
เนี่ย
of the same flesh and sinew as the invading monsters. These fuse directly to your body in a completely safe process. Don't worry about it. With grafts, you can harness the power of the breach.
เฮ้ย
Some provide passive benefits like this, or this,
โอ้
but they can also grant a wide selection of powerful skills. These graft skills can provide a flexible way to fill gaps in your build, offering everything from damage to potent defensive buffs and crowd
Ooh.
control.
โอ้
For example, the Battering All graft will call massive arms to erupt from the earth, stunning all those they hit.
100,000
For some additional pack clearing power, you could consider the Squalling Tool graft. When commanded, this graft will cast Dance in the White, creating a deadly ice tornado which aggressively seeks enemies and fires off bursts of ricocheting projectiles when you critically strike with skills.
ว้า
For some further utility and a useful buff, try out the Storming Ash graft. This
ไอ้เหี้ย
can
เบ
be
สดาเมจมัน
commanded
เยอะ
to
อ๋อ
call
คูลดาว
down a ring of
15 วิ
bolts from the
ไม่เยอะก็
sky
แปลก
that will leave behind the new Radiant Ground. Radiant Ground grants a potent damage buff to allies standing within it and makes their hit damage lucky. If you're simply after raw damage, look no further than the Erupting Zoth graft, which causes massive eruptions of fire where you command, which then re-erupt when you Warcry. There are a total of 16 different graft types you can grow, each with their own skill. You can even unlock a second graft slot as you progress through Aelith's questline. So feel free to mix and match Flesh Zone horrors to your heart's content. Now, grafts aren't just here to make you stronger. They are also your means of feeding the Genesis Tree, which needs constant supplies of graft blood to grow anything useful. You can do this by defeating breach monsters, which will leave behind blood that your graft will automatically collect. When you feed this blood to the tree, your allocated passives will be put to work. This section of the Genesis Tree can be used to grow new grafts for you, which the Genesis Tree will then birth in a gruesome display.
โอ้
Basic passives on the tree might increase item rarity of birthed grafts, or the chance to birth additional grafts. These passives can target specific types of grafts, and this passive causes grafts to be birthed with a random amount of quality. Quality improves the amount of blood that can be stored by your grafts. This section of the Genesis Tree births currency items. Basic passives can result in more or better currency. Allocate this passive to sometimes cause a shower of currency to burst forth from the flesh of the tree. Yeah, it's a bit gross, but working with the organic matter of a bunch of dead otherworldly creatures was never going to be a clean affair.
เฮ้ยดีว่ะ
Grafts themselves
ใช่ไหม
are
เหมือน
born
รายได้
of
เสริ
a
ม
different world, so are unmodifiable by most currencies. However, with this passive, the Genesis Tree can occasionally grow fleshy mockeries of currency orbs. These function like augmentation orbs, regal orbs, or exalted orbs, but they work on your grafts instead of normal gear. Yep, it's graft crafting.
อู้เยี่ยม
Allocating
เยี่ยม
this passive can result in foul-born currencies. This foul-born exalted orb, for instance, behaves as a normal exalted orb, except it guarantees a higher tier modifier.
เฮ้
By
ย
locking out a large portion of the lower rolls, a normal
Yeah.
exalted orb would be able to hit.
เกเตอร์เพอร์เฟกต์เหรอ
The largest section of the Genesis tree is used to grow rare equipment items.
เหี้ยไม่คิด
For
ว่าจะมีใน
these,
ฟิวนึง
you have a lot of agency to influence the type and modifiers on your grown item. For example, you can specifically target boots with a dexterity requirement, with an increased chance for speed modifiers, and reduced chance for cold modifiers. Or maybe you'd prefer to look for a two-handed axe with increased chance for physical modifiers. This section of the tree is for growing unique items. Similar to the equipment section, there are passives that let you target growing specific types of uniques or rarer uniques. The process of growth is not always a perfect one, however, and can result in some defects. This passive can result in birth uniques becoming foulborn, which mutates one of the existing modifiers on the item into a new one, resulting in some interesting new ways to use that unique. For example, this foulborn quill rain no longer has increased projectile speed, but instead has increased area of effect. Another foulborn quill rain could replace the mana gained on hit with the much more powerful modifier where insufficient mana doesn't prevent your bow attacks.
เฮ้ยแล้วก็เมดบัตล่ะ
Here are some other examples. This passive even gives a rare chance for foulborn uniques to have multiple different modifiers mutated. I'm sure you'll come up with some extremely powerful uses for these. We'll leave it up to you to discover what this mysterious part of the Genesis tree can grow. So, ultimately, you'll be slaying masses of breach monsters, harvesting blood with the aid of your grafts, feeding that to the Genesis tree, growing some items and better grafts, and back again to the slaughter. As with all our challenge leagues, this league will come with a set of 40 challenges to pursue, and completing them will award you with the Keeper of the Flame armor set, allowing you to truly embrace becoming a monk and worshipping the Dreamer. Now, graph skills won't be the only new tools to play with. In 327, we're also adding a collection of new skill and support gems. Let's go over them now. Kinetic Rain is a new
Let me
round
run.
attack which covers the ground in unstable kinetic
เมดบัต
energy.
จะมีอะไรให้ไหมอ่ะ
These hazards collapse at the slightest touch, releasing their energies into any unfortunate soul who happens to be standing on them. With enough projectiles and area of effect, an enterprising exile could carpet the world in dangerous kinetic force.
น่าเล่น
Wall
นะ
of
เนี่ย
Force creates a barrier of kinetic power, causing allied projectiles to ricochet towards targets automatically. Drop one behind a boss and redirect the bolts of your armies. I'm sure you'll find ways to break this one. Conflagration is a new bow attack which rains down fiery bolts from above that stick into the ground and pulse as you approach. Once you get close enough, these bolts detonate, causing ravaging
อบิ
ignites.
ซัตอบิซัตด้วย
These bolts chain react,
More
allowing you to
Abhisat?
create fields of incendiary destruction. Thunderstorm is a bow attack, which creates a whirling storm of wind and lightning where it lands. While you're within the storm, it will rapidly grow, until it becomes violently thunderous with lightning-infused clouds. At this point,
ไอ้เหี้ยมัน
leaving
คือ
the storm will
ทวิตเตอ
cause
ร์
it to detonate, dealing damage to everything within and releasing a flurry of tornadoes in all directions. Attacking with kinetic fusillade will create hovering orbs of energy. These linger for a few moments above you before zipping off to nearby
เย็ด
targets,
มันเอา PVE 2 มาให้เล่นใน
chaining
PVE 1 เว้
then
ย
detonating. Living Lightning support will bring to life living sparks of energy, elemental minions that zap through packs of enemies with speed and ease. Use these alongside your spellcasting to augment your pack clearing abilities, or find whatever means possible to cover the world in living sparks of ruin. Windburst support unleashes chaotic tornadoes as you attack, which ricochet around wildly and quickly. These deal moderate damage as they travel, but will explode into a highly damaging burst when they expire. So it's a choice between scaling their duration up to get better coverage, or down to access the burst more quickly. Kinetic Instability is a support gem to go along with the new wand attacks that causes enemies slain to leave behind those same orbs of shimmering energy that Kinetic Rain creates. One might ponder just how many orbs you can create if you were to use both.
แค่สกิลใหม่วะ
In 327, exiles will be able to absorb the power of some of the bosses they defeat. These take the form of new Ascendancy class options
Okay.
called Bloodlines. Bloodline classes are a new means of character customization in the endgame. They are secondary Ascendancy classes that are unlocked by defeating specific endgame bosses. They are allocated with your normal Ascendancy points, and you'll have to choose how many of your points go into the original Ascendancy and how many into your Bloodline class. This means there is a nigh limitless ability to mix and match here, as you could choose to invest just a couple points into your Bloodline, or max it out, and you could take any Bloodline with any base Ascendancy class that you see fit. To unlock your Bloodline, hunt down the endgame boss whose power you desire and defeat them, or have a
Ooh.
friend help and claim the power for your own.
อู้
There are 10 Bloodline classes to discover.
10 ค่ะ
Bosses who offer this power are typically associated with past leagues, giving additional reasons to engage with that league content.
ยังเพิ่ง
Let's
เคย
run
เห็น
over
ไร
a
เฟียแบบ
few
ใกล้ๆนั่นนะ
examples. The Chaos Bloodline will be offered to you by the Trial Master
Yeah.
if you manage to succeed his final challenge.
yeah
With his blessing, you can greatly augment your Val skills in different ways. Priest
Yeah.
of Yalmak lets you use Val skills much more often, while Priest of Kopek makes it harder to build up Val skills, but makes them far more powerful. Or take Corruption's Embrace, which grants more Val Keystone powers the more corrupted
Easier.
items you have equipped.
yeah
The
มันคือ
Ashabi
อย่าง
bloodline can be
มัน
gained
คือ
by,
คัดลอง
you guessed
ใหม่
it, defeating Ashabi.
Oshabi
Her abilities are drawn from the
ไอ้
three
เหี้ย
types of life force
กู
that
ได้เล่น
manifest
Oshabi แน่
within as Marian spirits.
กูได้เล่นโอชาบิแน่
The wild bear rewards you with adrenaline for generating rage. The vivid cat gives your elusive buffs a chance to refresh, as well as making you more stealthy while elusive. The primal owl allows your unleashed spells to reoccur many additional
โอเค
times
ไม่ละไม่ละไม่ละไม่ละ
and get stronger for each time they reoccur. The nameless bloodline comes from the King in the Mists. Be forewarned, his menacing power
No,
comes at a
shrine.
great cost. With the unseen hand, you can equip a third ring. But you'll have to decide if that comes at the expense of having no amulet, no belt, or no flasks. Unlight Silhouette adds a hefty life cost to all your spells, but they deal additional chaos damage based on the amount of life spent. Of course, there is more to come. What powers might you glean from delving deep underneath Rayclass to fight all the Crystal King?
ปูน
What secrets can you learn from Lycia, Herald of the Scourge, waiting at the end of the Forbidden Sanctum? As you can imagine, there are countless possible combinations with the system. You could be a Slayer that embraces corruption and vile power, or perhaps you'll play an occultist that doubles down on their dark power by integrating the nameless bloodline. We are excited to see what crazy and interesting builds players come up with. In the most recent Path of Exile 2 expansion, the Third Edict, we introduced a much anticipated feature, fully asynchronous trade. It was a fantastic success. So now we're excited to announce that we'll also be adding this feature into Path of Exile 1. When you reach Act 6, you'll be able to find Faustus in Lion Eye's
Faustus.
Watch.
ยับยับ
Previously, he just operated the currency exchange.
ยับยับยับ
Now,
ยับ
he will also act as a steward for your merchants tabs.
โอ้
These are where you can place items for sale, for direct and instant purchase by other players even when you're not online. To list an item, simply place it in the tab and select a currency and an amount.
I'll let you know.
Once listed, other players will be able to find the item by searching for it via the trade website or the new in-game market search. To purchase something for yourself, it's as easy as hitting this button, which will teleport you to the seller's hideout, where you can view their merchants tabs, buy the item, and also view the rest of their wares in case something else catches your eye. Every purchase costs a small fee of gold, as Faustus takes his cut. To account for this further drain on gold, acquisition and cost balance elsewhere in the game has been adjusted. Anything you've managed to sell successfully will have your profits collected here, in a separate tab to claim at your leisure. To be clear, previous means of trading, such as via pre-existing premium stash tabs and the website, will still function just as before. Merchants tabs, and the asynchronous trading that comes with them, are an entirely additive feature on top of the already existing methods to trade. You might find yourself needing the trade system to buy some upgrades, because this update also introduces 3 new Uber Pinnacle boss fights. These encounters are manifested from the memories of Zana, and in her long torment, they have festered into something truly deadly. These fights offer an imposing challenge, alongside powerful rewards. In order to gain access, similar to existing Uber Pinnacle fights, you'll need to discover fragments dropped by Tier 17 map bosses. Each attempt at the new Uber Pinnacle fights will require 5 of these. Let's dig into some of the challenges you'll need to face in these new Uber versions.
Ooh.
In the original incarnation of Neglect fight, the statues can be used to block the laser beams to hide behind, giving you an opportunity to avoid being shocked, frozen, or killed. When you run near these statues, they activate and allow you to reposition them. While activated, they will not stop the lasers, meaning you want to position them well, then avoid them. However, in the Uber version of this fight, instead of being a safe haven, the statues will refract the laser beams, causing a ruckus of energy to cover the arena. Activating them will prevent the refraction, so unlike the base fight, where you want to position them well and then avoid them, you'll be wanting to constantly keep these statues active. But then, you have to deal with their assault of attacks. While fighting the incarnation of Fear, these fiery orbs will slowly clutter up the arena, locking off portions of it until you bait the boss into detonating them himself with his thrown spear.
เฮ้ยยูนี้มันอาจจะเก่งก็ได้นะเว้ย
When Uberified, these orbs are attached by a flaming leash to the boss, rotating around him constantly. More and more will spawn as the fight goes on, making it even more imperative that you clean them up by cleverly using the boss's abilities against him. Normally in the incarnation of Dread fight, during the bullet hell phase, you have to acquire a red rose, run it to the boss, then collect a blue rose, doing the same, causing it to get heavy stunned and interrupting its mechanic. In the Uber version, you have to do the same, but in order to get the blue rose, you have to defeat the incarnation of Neglect, and to get the red rose, you have to defeat the incarnation of Fear. Good luck. Given the difficulty of these bosses, their rewards should be worth your while. Let's take a look at some. From the Uber incarnation of Neglect fight, we have Bitter Instinct, a spiky shield that turns retaliatory strikes into preemptive ones, making it just a matter of time before the long arm of justice crushes your foes.
1 alchemy.
Alternatively, you might find Festering Resentment, a poisoned blade with an unending supply of toxins built into the hilt. These toxins are put to good use, causing every spell you trigger to be capable of poisoning with all damage it deals, enabling a truly crazy trigger-centric poison ruckus. And from the Uber incarnation of Dread, the Hallowed Monarch, a counterpart to the Dark Monarch, which focuses more heavily on investing into one or a few minions, rather than growing your hordes to massive proportions.
เฮนันเตอร์สำหรับมินเนี่ยนเหรอ
Storm Rayclast, with your chosen few at your side, stealing power from your enemies as you go.
เฮนันเตอร์สำหรับมินเนี่ยน
We've got a number of quality of life changes to bring to 327 as well. Many of which you may have seen already in some of our pre-livestream teasers, but for those who haven't, Heist is a mechanic which has long frustrated some players who may otherwise have been interested in the rewards it has to offer, but have no desire to grind through the early progress of finding and running low-level
ใช่
contracts
เก็บเลเวล
to
ให้
get
โจร
all
มัน
of
โค
the rogues to
ตร
their
น่ารำคาญ
maximum level. Well, starting in 327, Heist rogues will automatically begin at maximum level, so you can start your dubious criminal career without all the busy work. Points invested into your Atlas passive tree will now be refundable with gold.
Yeah.
Just speak to Kerak to do so.
yeah
For players who love jumping between strategies, there's also an option to instantly refund your entire tree, which of course can now also be done with your regular passive tree as well. Now you can make all your decisions with no regrets. Well, maybe some regrets. You no longer need to purchase bestiary orbs. You
อันนี้
can
โคตร
now itemize
อันนี้
beasts
โคตร
for
ดี
free directly from your bestiary.
โคตรดี
From late Act 1, you can now mass identify your items at an NPC in every town. And from Helena in your hideout.
โคตร
This
ดี
does not require Scrolls of Wisdom at all.
โคตรดี
While using an Alteration Orb, you can now hold Alt to swap to using an Augmentation Orb, if one is available. Opening a Blight Chest will now open all other Blight Chests near it.
ดีโคตร
Rog's Disenchanting Services can now be accessed from towns and hideouts.
โคตรดี
Kerak missions now have a handy icon to show at a glance what kind of mission they are.
นี่แม่งนวัตกรรม
Holding
ชัด
down Control and right-clicking on stacked decks will now continuously open them to your inventory, notifying you in chat what the outcome is. If you still want to open them direct to the ground, to let your loot filter provide a dose of dopamine, you can still do that too by also holding Shift.
โคตรดี
Val orbs can be used on monsters encased in essences, to the same effect that remnants of corruption have.
ดีดีแบบดีเลย
When multiple skill gems are ready to level at the same time,
อันนี้
you'll
โค
now
ตร
be
ดี
able to click this button to level them all up at once. Next up, we're going to be
โคตร
talking
ดี
about our new League supporter packs. Today, we're launching 2 new series of supporter packs.
เย้
The Champion of Theopolis
โอ้ย
and the Verdant
มันจะไว้ใหม่
Magus
ปะนี่
packs. Each tier contains the pack's full face value in
มัน
points,
จะไว้ใหม่
alongside several exclusive microtransactions. As always, the microtransactions in these packs are purely cosmetic
เฮ้ยอะไรอะ
and
ทำไม
do
มัน
not
เฮ้ยอย่าง
affect
นั้น
your character's power or progression in any way. The Champion of Theopolis series of supporter packs contains 6 exclusive microtransactions.
กดวิ่งเหรอ
Manifest a champion's ferocity, as the Lion's Might unique finisher effect rips your enemies to shreds. Open the Champion of Theopolis portal to end your crusade through maps in the style expected of a true victor of the
อันนี้
arena.
คือแพ็ค800ใช่ปะใช่มัน300
Defeat
เนี่ย
your enemies like a true gladiator, wearing the Grand Champion of Theopolis armor set.
มันไม่ห่
The
อ
armor awarded only to the most elite warriors of the Grand Arena.
มันไม่ห่อมันไม่ห่อ
Take charge of the situation and storm into combat with the Flaming Minotaur's Quicksilver Flask effect.
เชี่ยแล้วถ้าใส่กระเมียดบัตรอะ
The Champion's Podium map device rises up to honor the glory you've achieved as you activate it.
โอ้
Ascend the stairs and stand atop the platform as
เฮ้ย
you
ชุด
enter
มัน
your
โคตรแอสซัสซิน
maps.
คีดอะ
Each flame surrounding the platform represents
Oh,
a remaining
damn.
use on your portal.
แอสซัสซินครีด
The Burden Back Billy Goat carries all the supplies necessary for a campsite as he
กี่ไฟ
travels
แล้วเหรอแม่
behind you in
คิดว่า
battle.
ใช่
When placed in a hideout, instead of roaming around like your other pets, their supplies are deployed, creating a small camp where you can access your stash and providing a place to take a load off while you rest next to the campfire. The Verdant Magus series contains 6 exclusive microtransactions. Having Faustus sell your items on your behalf is great and all, but
ต้อง
sometimes
โดน
you
จริง
just want to feel a little bit more shady about your dealings.
สวยมากแมดเดียวสวย
The
มาก
Back Alley Trader hideout decoration is more secretive with your trades, creating distance between you and your customers. Note that until 327 is released, this Back Alley Trader will only serve as your currency exchange. Once it's out, it will be updated to have the new Managed Shop option to also facilitate your trades. The Verdant Wayfinder pet is a loyal companion to any Master Magus.
หมาต้นไม้
As you approach waypoints, it envelops them with its vines, guiding you throughout Rayclast. Control Earth and nature itself, as the Great Verdant Magus armor set envelops you in the ancient power now lost to time.
อุ้ยมันเท่อ
There's
ยู่นะเนี่ย
also a matching back attachment included.
กูไม่เคยชอบปีกที่เป็นดอกไม้เลย
Remnants of the forest ripple out from within you with the Verdant Magus level up effect equipped, restoring life to the corrupted land. Call on an ancient golem to use their power to create a safe passage for you to retreat through with the Arcane Golem portal. As a supreme verdant magus, you can travel to your arcane isle hideout.
อุ้ยบ้านสวย
A cluster of islands held together by ancient magic passed down between elite mages.
โว้โว้โว้โว้
Stand atop your tower and relish the great heights you've reached above those who have not harnessed the arcane.
โอ้ดบ
These packs are now available for purchase on both PC and console and will remain so during Path of Exile, Keepers of the Flame. Additionally, any microtransactions from these supporter packs will be made available for use in Path of Exile 2. Meanwhile, the Crypt Keeper and Frisian Magistrate packs leave the store forever at the launch of the Keepers of the Flame League, so now's your last chance to purchase them. Thank you so much for your ongoing support. We're just about to start the Q&A with Ziggy D. Afterwards, we'll post the full patch notes for Path of Exile, Keepers of the Flame, at 11 a.m. New Zealand time, 3 p.m. Pacific.
ใช่ไหม
With release at the end of next week,
Thank you.
our community
Good
team
way.
will be posting crucial information you'll need for the release. Keep an eye on the news. Thanks for joining us today and checking out our latest developments. We're looking forward to holding off the Breach Lord's conquest, crafting gruesome grafts, planning dozens of Bloodline-empowered builds, and filling out our tree's tree. We hope you all join us.
โหแม่งไม่น่าเนิร์ฟยับนะเว้ย เราที่ไม่มีเมอร์เซนารี่อ่ะ มันก็จะกลายเป็นบิวธรรมดาบิวธรรมดาโดนเนิร์ฟเข้าไปอีกมันก็ไม่น่าเล่นแล้วปะโหน่าจะเป็นการสมดุลมากกว่า หมาไม้แห้งๆมั้ง
G'day Exiles and welcome to the post-reveal discussion and
หมาต้นไม้กู
Q&A
ก็กิน
with Jonathan and Mark, lead guys who make games, I believe was what we discussed as the titles.
Yeah,
That's the
official title. Yeah.
Excellent. I like it. It's good. We're talking about how to inflate their titles in the lead up to this. 327 Keepers of the Flame, the reveal we just had there was, I think, quite a banger, but I've been even more impressed with what I've been playing here in the office with some of that, so we'll get into that in a moment. But I'm curious, this is kind of like a special kind of reveal day for PoE 1 fans, as I think it marks a return to schedule for us. You announced this plan to do the 4-month cycle for the games, two twos, and it seems to be working.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly hard, I'll tell you that, right? Like, it can be pretty brutal on some of the stuff when it's like, every 2 months you got a deadline. But yeah, I mean, look, we have to do it, right? Like, I mean, that was always the intention, to get, the regular schedule. It's super important. So we have to make it happen. We have to make sure that is something that we can do going forward. But yeah, I would, like, I'm honestly, I'm so happy that we managed to, to get everything back. And I think it helps a lot.
I think like things feel a lot less like crazy here this visit for me, like, and things seem a bit more of a finished state as well from what I've been looking at. So
well, we're putting a lot more effort into sort of getting that production process down, making sure that everything's going well. Like, we're hiring producers at the moment, just by the way, in case anyone's out there is like looking for as a production job. But yeah, it's something that we're really concentrating on, making sure that because when you've got a schedule like this, when it's this tight, you have to be really, really careful, because like I would say one of the hardest things that we didn't expect, trying to make sure that we get the schedule this short, is you start to become really vulnerable to just like random things, like this person gets sick or like something like that, and that's like suddenly it's like a real challenge. So that's been real hard to adapt to. But yeah, I mean, honestly, we have to do it.
Because PoE 2's 030 kind of, we missed it by a week or two as well.
Yeah,
like, normally that's okay.
Yeah,
you slip a week or two, but now all of a sudden now you got a bit 2 week more overlap with 327. And it certainly has less room for error. But again, that's why more production staff should help, and we are just going to get better at it. But yes, we made it to 326 and now 327, mostly on schedule, give or take. One was, you could argue one's an anomaly, 2 is a pattern, so hopefully it should continue as normal, but yeah, we'll get better at it 100%, so we'll work out the kinks, but it was always going to be some growing pains to going to 6 releases a year for across both Path of Exiles. So.
Yeah, I remember thinking when you guys were doing 4 releases a year that was crazy, so 6 is pretty wild, but it seems to be happening, so fingers crossed it keeps happening. Is the contingency just that, like, occasionally you just might delay by a few weeks here?
I don't want to. I really want to be real strict about it. Like,
we said we'd stick to the time and adapt the content around the time, like consistency is key. So hopefully we can keep doing that. That's our still our current philosophy and plan. So yeah.
I think you were telling me once before, Jonathan, that when you have that for a while, it kind of helps everyone get an idea of like scoping a lot better.
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
content,
I mean, look, it helps with everything, right? It helps with the players just feeling the consistency. It helps with like developers. Like it's just overall like a way better state to be in.
So, Breach 2, aka Keepers of the Flame. It's the first real direct sequel league in PoE. Now, I know we're kind of sequeling with stuff in PoE 2. There's like definitely follow-ups there, but this is the actual first true sequel league, and it seems like people are pretty keen on the idea. I think the reception's been pretty good so far, first impressions. What are your guys' thoughts on doing a sequel? Were you like anti-sequel, pro-sequel? Because I know people kind of...
I would say personally that like, so whenever you do a sequel, you're entering a dangerous territory because people who didn't like the original could then now be like, oh, I'm disappointed because like as soon as they hear that it's a sequel to something they didn't like, they're like, it's not happy. So you could just be ruling out a bunch of people in your audience right away. Now, Breaches, I would say, is a pretty popular one, so like there's less danger there. Yeah. But effectively, in order to make a sequel to something, I think you really have to be doing something that had to be a real banger back when you did it, so that people actually, are definitely on board from the beginning. In general, I'd say we'd prefer to do stuff that's like new, but I think this one was a good fit. It was a good example of something to do, and yeah, people are liking it. So it's
I mean, as Jonathan said, yes, like some leagues are more divisive than others. Some have more kind of X factor out there gameplay. With the whole Blight Tower defense, and some of them are more maps and a bit more crazy. And immediately you do turn off some people, and we know that going in. When we make these, we try and make it something good for everyone, but Breach had that just like you're just slaying hordes of monsters. You're just killing. It's the classic. We talk about reinventing the wheel. Here we talk about not reinventing the killing monsters in circles. And it has that. And by the way, that is a massive thing when doing the sequel, is we're like, we must keep the killing monsters in circle. Because the last thing I want to do is, and this is another risk of a sequel, is take something that people love and then just ruin it. We really focused on the weaknesses of what Breach had, because it was nine years ago, almost to date. I think it was. I think it was December 9 years ago. So we're almost there. Yeah, just if you want to feel a bit old for a moment there.
My back, ow.
And I actually still remember working on it. It does not feel like it was that long ago. I made those 5, the 5 Breach Lords back when, and put together all the monsters and all that interesting stuff back then. And I was like, what was I doing? Like we took the player characters, put some micros on them, and dunked them in red paint.
That was the style at the time.
It was like, so it's not only been fun to come back and do a sequel, which, by the way, we've codenamed Breakwall, which is obviously a given. But
important.
We've coming with like 9 years of lessons learned, including with all the lessons learned from PoE 2 as well, and then coming back and being like, what do we know now that we didn't know back then? And it's like, okay, let's not sabotage the gameplay, the killing of monsters, the killing monsters in a circle, and let's focus on the weaknesses. And so then we looked at, okay, well, nowadays, if we were to do a league, it generally comes with, some character power arc. You've got some crafting system. There's generally a meta system, and then that's where you get like the grafts, the Genesis tree, and all that stuff come in. And again, focusing on that, less of like, focusing on the combat mechanic this time around, because we kind of knew that was a success. You'll find that it might be less trivial with some of the other contents that's a little bit more like crazy with respect to combat. But we'll see.
I'm definitely eager to dive into like basically all of the things you mentioned there. But out of interest, what's like a league mechanic or a expansion that you either would or wouldn't want to sequel at some point? Like, what would be a bad example? Is maybe interesting.
Well, I think the one that you said there with the tower defense stuff, it's just like, that would be very divisive, right? Immediately, if we said doing a sequel and PoE onto that, there'd be immediately a bunch of people would be like,
I like
I know.
I think you'll get both ends of this. I think you'll get the most passionate people wanting it, and then you'll get the most people that hate it on the other side.
Right.
For sure. That being said, like, it isn't like, oh no, that means Blight's never getting improved.
Right.
There's differences between overhauling and improving a league, and there's and obviously doing a narrative sequel where you kind of step away from some of it, and so really here it's like, yes, Blight, there's so many leagues, right? Insert all of them will get attention. Sometimes they'll just be quality of life, similar to what we've done with Heist this time round. because honestly, that might probably deserves more. And then other times it'll just be an upgrade.
I certainly wouldn't want people to say, oh yeah, we're just going to do sequels from now on. Though we're definitely not. Like, I don't think it's going to be the most common thing. I think it's just a thing we decided to do here, and maybe we'll do it again sometime. But most of the time, I think people want new stuff and different new things.
I like the revisits. I wonder. There's definitely some lore and stuff I'd like to see expanded. Like I feel like Harbinger, for example, touched on some stuff that was maybe only scratching the surface.
Part of what allows us to do the sequel here, by the way, and from a more production point of view, is that because we did the Twisted Domain and the new Breach monsters in PoE 2. We got to utilize the monsters. So we didn't take the bosses from PoE 2. We made full from scratch boss fights for this version for Keepers of the Flame. Cool. But for the monsters, a lot of it's reusing the models, the animations, the rigging, a lot of the art side of it. And because we get to do that, we get to then focus our attention on all those other things that we would otherwise have to have a bunch of resources dedicated to. So like there's a kind of like two birds, one stone going on there where we not only got to do it, we got to do it in a more cost-effective way that allowed us to focus on other features that are going in the expansion. So, win-win for players and for us in that regard. But, it would be less trivial with other sequels or to other leagues where we don't necessarily have all the monsters and everything made like that. So, not to say it's impossible.
Okay, เอาจริงๆแล้ว
It's just an interesting fact.
พาร์ทนี้ส่วนมากผมไม่ค่อยได้ฟัง
More here than we might.
ดูฟอปการแทนแล้วกัน
That came up that allowed us to do more here than we might, if we don't forward think enough or forward plan enough, and I mean quite far in advance. Wands looks sick. These full monsters from scratch is not a short-term process. We might not be able to do for some other leagues.
Does that Wander Wall work with bow attacks?
Kind of fun
Or
internal
which is just
kind of
wand
consideration
attacks?
that we made.
Well, like an interesting thing here as well with the fact that Breach is in PoE 2, and I don't normally get into lore, so lore warning, but
because Lion Arrow can abuse the wall so hard.
I definitely have delved into the deep end of the lore of this stuff, but so to simplify it, PoE 1, Chayula, baddie, we fight them. They're like the pinnacle.
Dude, that is massive for bows. That's a bow buff.
In PoE 2,
that's not defense though.
They're like explicitly not there as part of the boss of that, and also there's this
it's Frost Wall. It's old Frost Wall.
Humanity at some point, so. I'm curious if this expansion.
Does anyone have the gem info with that? They showed it, right? Did someone screenshot the gem info?
It 100%
the wall mechanic.
That was a huge other win we got to do here, because really there was like, okay, there's the breaches in PoE 1, previous to Keepers of the Flame, and then there's kind of breaches in PoE 2 with the Twisted Domain, and it's like, wait, how did we get here? What happened? Okay, so there's 25 years. It's what's going on here? So we wanted to. Given again, because 9 years ago we weren't really putting that much into the narrative of leagues and into you'd find back then we're not far from Onslaught League back then, right? It was just 20% of some stats. So, and even when we had Anarchy, there was Exiles, but like there's named characters, but we didn't really have voice acting for anything. Like we've kind of stepped up our game in a lot of delivery of that. So now we get to come back and go, let's establish a bit more about Breach. Obviously, there's uniques and flavor text historically, but yeah, we got to establish a little bit more, add some interesting stuff to it. Meanwhile, also, progressing the narrative towards what
เอาล่ะทีนี้ทิศทางของช่องเราเอาไงดีช่างแผ่นเราไปทรายไปก่อนทิศทางของช่องเราไงดีอยากได้อะไรกันบอกมาอยากได้แมปดีไว้ผมจัดเตรียมให้ไม่ได้วะ แจกเงินประชาชน ให้เขาอยากแพ็กใหม่ เดี๋ยวรอแพทโน้ตแล้วกัน รอแพทโน้ตทั้งนี้ทั้งนั้นคือฟ้าทำอะไรอยู่
It's quite fun. I think our animators enjoyed that one a
30%
little bit
chance
as well.
to chain when
That's
climate
awesome.
terrain.
You guys hadn't really done too much of that in the past, or
You mean mocap?
yeah, like
I mean, the animators always film visual references. So, like, I mean, they've got a room basically where they go up and they're just, you know, like doing all the animation, acting out. They're often not actually.
มอนในเรียนมาดูน้อยจัง
technically,
คอนเทนต์รีวิวกับ
or
เทรลเลอร์
Yeah, it's that
everything,
cross
but they're
wall.
often filming that and then doing animation to it. So
Yeah.
The
it's pretty common.
I'd say one of the most useful pieces of technology that we've been able to benefit from is it's a literally single phone shot.
ก็อาจจะแค่เป็น
and
รีวิวเฉยๆ
very
หรือเปล่า
quick
เกจิน
from recording to in-game animation. It works really
ผม
well.
คิดว่าเดี๋ยวเราเข้าไปเล่น
for,
เราก็น่าจะได้เห็น
animating
มอนแบบ
multi-humans,
แน่น
but also for when it's involving just a single human. It's like ultra quick. Like if you have two and they have to interact and make contact, it's not very good at handling that. But it's been insanely fast. So you just get a single small tripod with a phone, and you can record a human and chuck it in game pretty rapidly. So that's been amazing, and honestly, almost all of the human animations you'll now see in game, where it's not someone punching or hitting another person. So like, it's not, you know, the best for combat and kind of scripted cinematic interactions between characters, but just those kind of freestanding town idols and all of that stuff, yeah, you can do pretty rapidly now. It's been a pretty big improvement, I'd say, in a cool
What
way.
is-
So.
yeah, and I mean you're getting like PV2 quality stuff in Path of Exile 1 as well.
Demon
Like, I
Witch is the
definitely
number
see
one
things like, that's a
baddie.
lot
Holy,
more
I want her
going
to
on
drag
there
her
than they
scales
usually
as
do
she
in PV1.
dodge
Yeah, we were
rolls
just talking
over
about the fact
Okay,
that
Jung.
The original bosses were just exiles with extra color filters on them, right?
Okay.
I mean, everything new that goes into PoE1 like has been a lot higher standard than some of the early stuff for a
Yeah.
very long time, right? Because it's not like you have people being like, oh, you know what, I'm going to make this worse quality because it's going in PoE1. Like obviously they're going to make something look as good
Okay.
as we can make it, right?
ผมคิดว่าน่าจะมีคอนเทนต์รีวิวแค่นี้น้อยนะ น้อยปะแอมน้อยอยู่นะ เอาเป็นว่าเราได้รู้สกิลใหม่ สกิลจากสิ่งที่เรียกว่าแขนเล็กแขนน้อย มีแขนเล็กแขนน้อย มีสกิลใหม่ มีเพิ่มสแตทถาวรจากแขนเล็กแขนน้อยนู่นนี่นั่น เอาเป็นว่าเราจะยังคงสติ๊กอยู่กับแผนเดิมก็คือธนู เพราะว่าธนูดูไม่ได้โดนมีผลกระทบอะไรมาก แล้วรีเวิร์กแอสซัสซินนี่รีเวิร์กแอสซัสซินไม่เห็นมีพูดถึงในรีวิวเลย ก็น่าจะมาให้เห็นในแพทโน้ตน่าจะไม่ได้มาวันนี้แพทโน้ตมาวันไหนวะ ปกติแพทโน้ตมาวันไหนอ๋อเฉลยออกมาวันสุดท้ายเหรอ อีก1-2 ชั่วโมงก็มา อันนี้คือผมต้องอยู่รอดูเหรอ ที่ดูสีสแต็กเกอร์ เอาเป็นว่า เดี๋ยวมีอะไรเดี๋ยวมาอัปเดตแล้วกัน ผมมาแค่นี้แล้ววันนี้ ผมมาแค่นี้แหละ มีอะไรเดี๋ยวมาอัปเดตเกี่ยวกับเรื่องลีกสตาร์เตอร์อะไรพวกนี้ มาแค่นี้แหละ มีคนชิ่งแล้วไปแล้วขอบคุณทุกคนที่แวะมาเดี๋ยวไว้ค่อยคุยกันผมไปก่อนครับไว้เจอกันไลฟ์หน้าผมไปละบ๊ายบาย